Welcome to Best Cellars. This is an interactive bid and write game for multiple players. You can play with one or two. I'm going to give you a quick overview of how it plays. It's quite simple. So at the start of the game, you're going to shuffle the main deck. Each player is going to get a sheet, a player sheet, and you'll set up by revealing 3 cards from the top of the deck, making sure that you've got different types represented. All the cards in the deck will represent types of drinks that players can bid on and they'll place into their cellars. At the start of the game, you get to choose any one of the 3 types to put in your player sheet, and you'll use the number on the bottom of the card. So if you chose the ale here, you'd use the 4. Or you could combine that number with the number on top of the deck. So for an ale, I could use a 4 or a 10. In this example, I'm going to use the port as a 9 plus a 6. I'm going to put that in my wine racks using the pen tool. I'm going to chuck it in as a port and cross that off. We'll also mark off that I've used my 15, as throughout the course of the game I'm going to use all my numbers. These cards will then be discarded and the play will resume. And from this point on, you'll be taking a series of rounds until all players have used all their numbers. That's a simultaneous game. The card from the top of the deck will be revealed. Each player will simultaneously choose a number that's available from their remaining numbers, and then everyone will reveal their bids. Let's imagine that this is the first round and there's an ale available. I have bid a 2. I'm going to simulate a 4-player game. We would then raise the zones and we'd check all the bids. So we'd see here that my 2 is the lowest bid. It's the outright lowest bid, which means that I must put it in my tasting room as a drinking alone. So I write a 2 in this box. Now drinking alone is bad. It's going to score negative points. The first time you drink alone, it's times 0, so it counts as 0. But from this point on, every time I play the lowest number, I'm going to get negative points equal to the value. We can then see that this player over here has the outright highest bid with an 8. So they would put that in their reserve. So they'd write an 8 in here with an A, and they would score towards their reserve, and you're rewarded with the reserve for getting multiple different types in there. So they've got an ale. And then in this 3rd and 4th player have both bid a 4. Now, when you bid the same number as someone else, it's considered social drinking. So both players here would write 4 in their first box and cross a 4 off, and then we would lower the zones and we'd go again. So then we would flip the next card and we'd have the remaining numbers to choose from, and we keep going like that. The game will continue until the round in which every player uses their last number. So you use 1 number at the start during setup, and then you play 15 rounds for a total of 16 numbers. And at the end of the game, your score sheet will look something like this. You'll then tally up your points for each of the different sections on your board, add them all together, play with the highest points wins. So for example, the ale barrels, you'll score depending on how many kegs you fill up. I only filled up 1, so I only score 3 points. If I'd filled up 4, I'd get 40 points instead. The tasting room with those negatives from drinking alone, you can potentially score negative points. I got minus 11 here. The wine racks, you're going to score depending on how many boxes you filled in, and if you complete a full column, you'll also get bonus points. And the reserve will reward you for getting multiple of different types. I managed to get 20 bonus points here because I filled all 5 spots in the reserve, and I got 4 different types represented.